Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopijana Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Thank you. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashrutar Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhamsa Pravikacharya Ashrutar Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se hai koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanam Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Urdayet Nasta Preyo Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Text 4. If you could repeat after me. Yad yad acharati shreyan itaharas tat tat ihate sa yat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastat anuvartate yat yat acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate yad yad acharati shreyan sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Anyone else would like to try? Kevin? Yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Jordan? Yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Jivana? Yad yad acharati shreyan itaras tatat ihate lokastad anuvartate. Synonyms. Yat yat, whatever. Acharati, executes. Shreyan, a first-class man with full knowledge of religious principles. Itaraha, the subordinate man. Tat tat, that. Ihate, performs. Saha, he, the great man. Yat, whatever. Pramanam, as evidence or as the right thing. Kurute, accepts. Lokaha, the general public. Tat, that. Anuvartate, follows. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The mass of people follow the example of a leader in society and imitate his behavior. They accept as evidence whatever the leader accepts. Purport. Although a Jamil was not punishable, the Yamadutas were insisting on taking him away to Yamaraj for punishment. This was adharma, contrary to religious principles. The Vishnudutas feared that if such irreligious acts were allowed, the management of human society would be spoiled. In modern times, the Krishna consciousness movement is trying to introduce the right principles of management for human society. But unfortunately, the governments of Kali Yuga do not properly support the Hare Krishna movement because they do not appreciate its valuable service. The Hare Krishna movement is the right movement for ameliorating the fallen condition of human society, and therefore governments and public leaders in every part of the world should support this movement to completely rectify humanity's sinful condition. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishnam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, when Srila Prabhupada, he was speaking with His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami and Harishari Prabhu, they were discussing the government of today, the modern, so-called modern society. And they concluded that the government is full of rogues, rascals, thieves, plunderers. So Srila Prabhupada, he says, this is demon crazy, or shortcut for democracy, right? And so demon and crazy. And then Srila Prabhupada, he says, there are demons whose brains are all right, but they're just crazy. So Srila Prabhupada, he then said, to kill this demon crazy, this is my mission. So that should always be in the back of our mind. And this verse is very, it was repeated, or it's very similar. You can find it in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the CC, and in the Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter. So this means that it's a very important verse. And in today's society, this verse is summed up by a phrase, monkey see, monkey do. Whatever, you know. So a devotee must be a good example for the public. It was an interesting day yesterday. I was distributing books at Balboa Park, and I noticed there were a lot of police officers roaming around, and they were holding some type of placard in their hand. So I was trying to distribute a book to some of them, but they said no. And there was a lady, a Mataji, she came to my table, and I asked her, what's going on? Why is there so many police officers in Balboa Park? And she said there was a police convention, and there was an award ceremony. They were giving awards for who's been the longest, the most heroic task, things like that. So I showed her the Bhagavad Gita, and I also showed her the SSR. So I told her that this book, it can help the police department. So she asked how. So I flipped to the page where Srila Prabhupada, he describes what is the difference between a criminal and a saint. So she didn't know. So I told her what Srila Prabhupada said. He says that the difference is that one is pure in heart and the other one has dirty things within the heart. So she said, that's very interesting. So I told her, real change must come from the heart. She said, wow, this is very valuable stuff. So I told her it's very valuable. So she said, how much for the books? And I said, you can give a donation. Most people give around $20. So she gave a very generous donation. And then she said, you seem very calm and peaceful. So I smiled and asked her to read this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, that for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So I told her that the mind can turn heaven into hell or hell into heaven. And she was so fascinated by the information she heard from the Bhagavad Gita. And then she said, you're not cold? And I told her no. And then I told her to read the next verse. And the next verse, it said, for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, all the same. And she said, wow. And I told her, if you apply this in your life, you'll see a big difference. So she took the book and I gave her a garland. And as soon as she left, I took my chadar and I wrapped it around my legs. Because, in front of people, we should, try to follow the directions and apply it. And so in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita, the verse similar to this, Srila Prabhupada says that a leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Right? So at the present moment, it is a great necessity to have some ideal men. Yad yad acharati shreyan. And what does it mean to be an ideal man in society? So this Kali Yuga has many faults, but that's why Krishna, he divided the society into 4 different societies or classes. There's the Brahmanas, there's the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and then the Shudras. But in the Bhagavatam, it says that almost everyone in this age are all Shudras, 4th class men, actually even lower, Chandalas and Yavanas. So Krishna, he was thinking, I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came in the disguise of a devotee to teach us what does it mean to be a devotee, to follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. And it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada, he says that just like universities are meant for first-class human beings, God consciousness or Krishna consciousness is meant for first-class human beings. If you look around the world, where is someone interested in learning about God? What is my relationship to God? What is my relationship to others? What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? These are rare questions. When I distribute the Srimad Bhagavatam, I tell them about Parikshit Maharaj, how he was cursed to die in 7 days. And I asked them, if you had 7 days to live, how would you spend those days? They would tell me two answers. One, I want to spend it with my loved ones. That's the general response. The next answer would be, I want to try to enjoy as much as I can. So these are the 2 different answers. But I tell them, the king, the emperor, he did the exact opposite. I told him he renounced his kingdom, he renounced his family, and he sat by the banks of the river and he started asking questions. How should one prepare for die? What should one think of before he leaves the body? So they think about that and they say, wow, that's interesting. I told him we should get this book. So they take the Srimad Bhagavatam, they give a donation, and they start thinking about life a little bit more. So this movement is very important because it is creating first-class men so that others will see and follow. A father who's a drunkard, he doesn't like to see his son to become a drunkard, right? So everyone appreciates good quality. And there's a story that there were two twins. There was twins, sorry, a set of twins. And they had an alcoholic father, but their destinies were different. One son was in the prison, and the other son, he was an influencer. He was giving He was a motivational speaker. So the newscast, the interviewer, she asked her, "What motivated you to become a positive speaker?" So he narrated that, "I grew up seeing my father drink, and I saw the destructive behavior that he was having. He would yell at my mom. He would even hurt my mom. So I didn't want to be like him." But then the other twin, he saw his father and he said, "Wow, I want to be just like my dad." So they grew up in the same household, but they had different destinies according to their, you can say, consciousness or whatever mode they were in. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that it was taught to the Rajarshi, not to the third-class men. Evam parampara pratam emam Rajarsho viduhu. Rajarshi means, Raja means king, and Rishi means a saintly person. So a Rajarshi was a saintly king at the same time, just like Maharaj Yudhishthir, Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, they were ideal kings. And in the story of the Ramayana, Mother Sita, she was kidnapped by Ravana. You guys all know the story. And there was a great endeavor to try to rescue Sita back. Hanuman had to jump over the ocean to reach Sri Lanka. He had to face many demons. And the bears, the monkeys, they had to build the stone bridge linking India to Sri Lanka. So it was a big endeavor. And after they rescued Mother Sita, there was a washerman. And he was criticizing Lord Ramchandra. He was saying, how can Lord Ram accept Sita back? She was kidnapped by a demon, so how can he accept her back in her house, in his house? So when Ramchandra was hearing this, you know what Lord Ram did? He banished Sita to the forest. So this is an ideal king. He didn't want to be criticized by his citizens. So he had to separate from Lakshmi Devi. When you go out on books, you can see the different conditions or attachments that people have. I was telling this one man the 4 regulative principles, no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. And I was telling him how attachment, a person will naturally think of that at the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajit yanti kalivaram tam tami vaiti konteya siddhartha bhava bhavataha. So I told him, if you're attached to a woman, you might get a woman's body in the next life. So I was telling him this, and at the end of the conversation, he said, "Wait, you're telling me I can't enjoy women?" And so out of the whole, the teaching, that's what he focused on. So I told him, you can have a relationship, you can get married, but you shouldn't try this enjoying mentality. It's not a good thing. It actually works against you. And so he said, I never thought about that. So I said, you should take this book. There's a lot more to think about. So he took a Bhagavad Gita. He gave a donation. And so people have attachments, but Lord Ramchandra, he's a supreme personality of Godhead. And one of the 6 opulences is renunciation. So even he had to give up Mother Sita to teach an example. And in the Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj, he was emperor of emperor of the earth. But when he was on tour, he saw a black man dressed as a king, and he was beating the legs of a cow. And so Parikshit Maharaj, he chastised him immediately. He said, "Who are you, daring to kill a cow in my kingdom?" So he took his sword and he was about to kill him. So this man replied, "I'm Kali Yuga. It is my time now Just like there's 4 yugas, the Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, now this is called the Kali Yuga, the age of quarrelism and hypocrisy. So Parikshit Maharaj, he told him to leave his kingdom or else he'll kill him. But Kali, he protested. He said, where can I go? He said, anywhere but my kingdom. And then so Kali replied, the whole earth is your kingdom. Where will I go? So he gave him, this is what he said, Streya, Suna, Panam, Dutyam, Yatra, Papas, Chaturvidaha. He said you can remain in 4 places, where there's illicit sex, where there's gambling, where there's intoxication, and then there's killing of animals. Did I say that? So these are the 4 places you can go. And at that time, Kali, he said, none of these exist in your kingdom. So you can imagine how righteous Parikshit Maharaj was. But Kali had a plan. Srila Prabhupada, he narrates that he was waiting for Parikshit Maharaj to leave his body. He was cursed to die in 7 days. So when Parikshit Maharaj, when he left his body, that was when Kali Yuga, his influence began to spread. And so when Kali was having a hard time looking for places, it means that Parikshit Maharaj, he was following the Vedic culture injunction or the teachings. There was no brothels, no slaughterhouses, no liquor houses, and no casinos. I had a co-worker, we just got paid, and she said, I'm going to go to my second home. I said, your second home, what's that? And she said, my house and the casino. So she considered the casino to be her second home. People work so hard for a little paycheck and they spend it stupidly in gambling, casinos, on all these unnecessary necessities. That's why Srila Prabhupada, he says that we're now living in a artificial, lifestyle living. So the king, he was very strict not to allow these things, and the people were following. Yad yad acharati shrayan. And the king and the government were strict, so the people were following. So these sinful activities of the whole world, it stopped. You can't find it. But everywhere here in Pacific Beach, all around the world, there's a liquor store. There's restaurants that serve meat. There's casinos. And Bhakti Sundar Goswami Maharaj, he was saying in Las Vegas, that's where you see it. You see billboards, break the 4 regulative principles. That's enjoyment. So, and in this Kali Yuga, the government members, they themselves are victims of Kali Yuga, right? How many of them are not drinking, eating meat, looking for women, things like that? So how can they stop if they themselves don't know that they're entangled? There's a story. There was a sadhu coming to visit a mother and a son. And so the mom told the sadhu, please tell my son not to eat sweets. So the sadhu said, come back a week later, or come back a week. So after a week, they came back, and the sadhu told the son, don't eat any more sweets. So the mother asked, why did you wait for me to, a week later to tell my son this? So the sadhu said, at that time I was eating sweets. So you can't tell someone if you are self-doing it. Therefore the position of the world is so deteriorated because there is no ideal man. And what are the signs of Kali Yuga? It says, Dampatye ratim evahi. Dampati means husband and wife. And the relationship is strong so long that they can satisfy one another by sex. Rati means sex. And Dapani ratim evahi. And as soon as there is sex disturbance, there's divorce. I don't want you, right? So that's the relationship. And then Viprat vi shutam evahi. A brahmana means one that just has a sacred thread. That's what a Brahmin is in Kali Yuga. He just has a thread, and that makes him a Brahmana. No qualifications, no anything. And a sannyas means a rod. A person that handles a rod is considered a sannyasi. And then the last part, it says that Dakshyam Kutumba Baranam. That means who is expert in society? One that can maintain his family. That's it. This is what society considers a successful person. If he can maintain his family, he's successful, he's very learned. But that's not what we consider successful. Even animals do that, right? They take care of their kids. A bird is looking for worms for their children. So they're also expert. Srila Prabhupada, he says in Western countries, they take dog as the best friend and television. Television. That's all. So not only did Srila Prabhupada include a dog, but a television in Kali Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, there's no family, but he must have companion, because the soul has to serve. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nichadas. So we should be serving someone, but instead of serving Krishna, we want to serve the mind, the dictations of lust, illusion, things like that. And since he doesn't want a family, the botheration of a family, he keeps a dog as a best friend, so it can be done. So we're endeavoring to create some ideal men, this Krishna consciousness movement. So those who have taken Krishna consciousness seriously, they should be ideal men. The society will be benefited at least by seeing their behavior. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us, Apani Achari Prabhu Jiveri Shikshaya. If you don't behave yourself as an ideal man, you cannot preach. Your preaching will not be successful. And there's a story of, there was a king, King Prithu. He was angry at the earth because earth, she wasn't supplying food, grains, flowers, minerals. So King Prithu, he was about to destroy earth. So she said, why are you trying to punish me? It is my business. When people become demons, I restrict my supply. So we should keep that in mind. There's droughts everywhere. There's, wars. It's all due to the reactions of our sinful activities. And then she said, as soon as you become demons, godless, I will restrict my supply. So we actually get everything from earth. Water, fruits, flowers, vegetables, minerals, everything. But Prakriti, or material nature, she's carrying out the orders of Krishna. Madhyak Shena Prakriti Suyati Sachara Charam. So we want to create ideal men, and when people see them, they at least will understand, here are ideal men. They should be ashamed. I was working before I moved in, and when you see trash, you just pick it up and throw it, right? I mean, that's an ideal thing. So at my work, I did that, and I didn't think no one was watching me. I mean, it was just something small. So the next day, we had a meeting, and I had a award for that. And I said, what is this for? And they said, we saw you throwing trash away. So people appreciate the smallest things, what to speak of someone with good character. So, and I was a little embarrassed, and I said, isn't this common sense? When you see trash, you pick it up. So we want to create first-class men, not fourth class, not fifth class, none of that. And it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada, he says that there's different types of meat eaters also. There's people that eat goat, hog. There's Korean restaurants, they serve all these nasty things. Cow tongue, cow intestine. So Srila Prabhupada, he says that just see the conditioning. Hogs, they eat stool and urine, and men, they're eating their intestine. So imagine that, this is very, very fallen age right now. And so the worst, Srila Prabhupada said, are dog eaters. They're considered to be the lowest. Because there was a restriction on cow, nobody wouldn't dare to touch a cow in those times. So Yavana and Chandalas. So, but Mahaprabhu, by his grace, this movement is able to pick up even Chandalas and Yavanas to become Brahmanas. We should reflect how we were before we joined, right? I was speaking to Bhakti Tyler about our good old days, and we were, we're fools, rascals, we thought some suffering was actually our enjoyment. So we should remember how fallen we were before we met a devotee, before we took a book. So I'll narrate some Sankirtan stories. When you try to distribute books, people say, I don't have time, I'm busy, I have to go. And I was thinking, a hamster on a wheel is also busy. They're putting effort, time, they're putting so much thought into moving so fast, but where are they going? Nowhere. And I was relating this to the gym, people on treadmills. So it's the same, a hamster on a wheel and then a human being on a treadmill. So a lot of people, they don't know where they're going, they don't know where they're heading, they don't know how they're getting there. They're actually lost in this material world. And when you see people on book distribution, they're like dogs. A dog, it just follows its nose. Where is this? It has no idea that there's even people around. And so these human beings, considered two-legged animals, they're just like that. They're being pulled by the mind, they're pulled by the senses, things like that. And so I asked, I got this from my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhadrinarayan Swami Maharaj. He says that a bee is working very hard. He goes to different flowers, and it collects pollen. But does it actually taste the honey? They don't taste the honey. So after all that hard work, they don't even get a taste of the result. So similarly, people, they're working hard, 2-3 jobs, but they're getting a little bit of sense enjoyment. They're filling their bellies, and they consider that to be happiness. And Maya is forcing us the same way as a carrot induces a donkey to move. And Maya comes in the form of a woman and for a man, things like that, or for fame, name, recognition, subtle things like that. I was distributing books, and people always tell me their problems, my relationship problems, my work problems, my family problems. So I had them a Bhagavad Gita, and I told them, this book will make all your problems go away. I said, really? And I said, yeah. They smile, and they say, how will it help me? And I told them, everything is all in the mind, And I told them not only that, but you can learn to help others, everyone, every person in society, just like watering the root of a tree. When you please Krishna, everyone is pleased. But if you try to water the individual leaves, it's actually useless. So when we try to have this enjoying mentality of, me, it's very selfish actually. And I asked this question recently. Have you heard of inner happiness and inner peace? And people stop and they think. And I said, yeah, people have forgotten it. They're now chasing external happiness. I want a newer car, I want a newer this, I want that. And I told them that real happiness comes from within, it's from the soul. So I make them read a few passages in the Bhagavad Gita, and they appreciate, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So I told them that this knowledge we've now forgotten, because we're covered in the illusory energy of Krishna. I met this man, I asked him, have you heard of stress? He said, I'm dying from stress. I said, you should take this book, sir. Okay. So people can relate to stress, anxiety, sorrow, disappointment. They can relate to that. So when we give them Prabhupada's book, we can help them in this life and in their next life. And to conclude, I was chanting japa in my room, and I have this picture of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, and I was thinking these are our eternal father and eternal mother. And I remember when I was like 20 years old, I looked at my dad, and I was thinking, it would be nice to know how he was like when he was younger, what type of activities he was doing, things like that. Who were his friends? But when I saw that picture of Krishna, I was thinking, wow, we know every pastime of Krishna. When he appeared in this earth, on this earth, his pastimes, all of his friends, why is he here? Yada yada hi dharmasya, glanar bhavati bharata, that he comes to annihilate the miscreants and to deliver the pious, things like that, to reestablish religion. And so I was thinking how wonderful Krishna is and how merciful Srimati Radharani, our mother, is. So, okay, thank you. Is there any questions, comments? Do you guys have a mic?
At the beginning, you mentioned heaven and hell in like one point. How does heaven and hell relate to Vaishnavism? And yeah, that's
Thank you. I was someone gave me a $1 million bill. It was a Christian man, and on the back it says the most important question: will you go to heaven? So I was sharing this with Dayanidhi Prabhu. And his answer was profound. He said, heaven, we don't care about heaven. We want to go back to Godhead, So the Vaishnavas would consider heaven insignificant because heaven is still in the material world. But the way it relates to us is that the mind is everything, and it's also our conditioning, Just like, even the different foods that we eat, they're in the three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But so Vaishnavism, even liberation, the Buddhists or the Mayavadis, in personal liberation, we consider that to be hell. Because Srila Prabhupada, he says it's spiritual suicide, to no identification, just to merge with the light, that's suicide for us. Because there's no service to Krishna. And after all, we have to serve, so why not serve Krishna? I'm sorry, did that answer your question a little bit? Yeah, maybe someone can elaborate. Dravida Prabhu?
I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I don't think you dealt with the hell part. The hell part. I mean, we don't want to go to heaven.
Oh yeah. We don't want to go to hell too.
But the thing is, the last chapter. I don't think you were here. Actually, 2 chapters before, there was a description of some of the hells that are there. It's real. Just like in this plane, we know there are certain parts of the world or things, where it's like hell. It's not enough food, or you're in jail, or whatever. In other words, suffering can be like that. So, Ukraine. Yeah, Ukraine right now. So, it's explained that there is a system of justice, and that if you're a very sinful person, if you're violating the laws of God, the laws of nature, then there are certain. Then this is what this is all about. That's the pastime of reading. That there's judgment. You're taken yanked out of your body. And I'll tell you, there's some confirmation of this empirically. I used to work in a hospital, and there was something called terminal restlessness. People who they knew were going to die, but they were still awake and alive. They were suffering a lot. They often gave them a lot of drugs and everything. But at a certain point, they started freaking out and complaining, and they thought they were just hallucinating. They saw dogs coming to get him, vicious things, and they were afraid, and all these different things. They give him some more drugs, put him to sleep. But in our books, the Bhagavatam, the last chapter, I didn't think you were here, and it describes these Yamadutas coming to pull out of his body this Ajamil, who all his life had been very sinful. And his saving grace was that at the very end, he had this little child named Narayan, because he'd been very pious when he was young, and Narayan's the name of God. So he named his last child. He had 10 sons, by the way. That's in the Bhagavatam. And so he called out to his son, Narayan, and that saved him so that the Yamadutas were stopped. But that's very unusual, and he's fortunate. Many people, they don't have that thing, and so they're taken out of their body, and they're scared as anything, and they're taken to Yamaraj, the judge, and he measures all of the sins they committed, vicious things, hurting other people and other animals and things. And then there's specific punishments, which are hair-raising. I mentioned in one of the lectures I gave about illicit sex. People just say, oh, this is a free sex, But then you have to embrace a molten iron form of the opposite sex for so many years, and it's terrible. So hell is very real, material hell, and heaven is very real, as is the spiritual God. If you're very pious, you perform sacrifice, you're very kind, and all these things, then you can go to heaven. God isn't there, but there is what we call demigod may be there. And you live for a long time, and you enjoy like anything. But you still have to come down. You still die, and you come back down to earth. So heaven and hell are very real. But beyond material heaven is what we call the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. When you go there, you don't come back. You're not in a material body. You never die. So that's kind of a little bit of the cosmography. And so heaven is real, hell is real, but both of them are material, and ultimately it doesn't solve our problem, which is that we're embodied and we're suffering like anything. So we want to go back to Godhead. No more taking birth.
Thank you, Dhruva.
Yeah, also about hell, because within a lot of Christian, within a lot of the understanding that Christians have in relation to hell, they think it's eternal. That's why they're very concerned to save people. Right? Hey, I want to save you, man, because if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell forever. I mean, you can imagine, like, maybe that's why there's a lot of fired up preachers. I don't know. Maybe we think, oh yeah, they have a few more lives, we could. So yeah, but the Vaishnava understanding is that it's not eternal. So, but it is, like Trivita Prabhu was saying, there's a lot of suffering there, hair raising. But yeah, we also shouldn't get into that mindset, because I was saying that the Christians are very enthusiastic to preach, because they think that, okay, all these people are going to hell, and unless I save them, they're all going to go to hell. Right? Therefore, they're very enthusiastic. But what I'm saying is that we shouldn't get into the mindset that the mindset of, hey, well, all right, we all have many lives, and if somebody doesn't make it, they don't make it. They're not going to go to hell forever, right? They have so many lives to kind of perfect themselves, and yeah, maybe they'll go to hell and suffer for some years, but so it could kind of get into this mentality that, yeah, they got some time, we don't have to be so enthusiastic, but we should be very enthusiastic, because we could say, all right, well, we could help them not suffer in the future, in this life, and the next life, and so, anyways. Anyone have any other comments or questions? In-house?
Hare Krishna.
I think Tyler had something to say first. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, I can wait, no problem.
Thank you for a very nice class, Govardhan. Your class is very smooth. It's seamless. It's like pearls strung on a thread. Very nice. I like the story you told about the giving up sweets anecdote. I thought of that. It was a different form. I heard it was Gandhi telling someone to give up sugar, but then you said it like 5 minutes after I thought about it, so I thought that was really cool. We were in sync there. Also, that in the kingdom there weren't places you could go to engage in breaking the four regular principles. That would be a really wonderful place to be. It made me think that if we're just sitting here innately, we're not breaking the regular principles. You actually have to go engage in activity. You actually have to go to a venue to do those things. And that's very merciful that, we're not living in a venue, or that it's, they're pretty much next door, but they're not like next door. Do you know what I mean? So you actually have to make a conscious effort to stand up, usually get some money, walk somewhere, and then, degrade yourself. So it would be really great if we lived in a place where there wasn't even the opportunity to do that, right? It's like, how do you break regular principle then, All right, I got to wait till the later yuga, then I'll have fun. So it's almost nice that the king's protecting his people so nicely they don't even have places to go do sinful activity. You brought up the point about the person who was listening to the talk, and then he had that gut reaction of, I can't enjoy women. So I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about that, from the understanding too that we know that Krishna is the only enjoyer, we're to be enjoyed. So our goal is to make Krishna happy. So there's a flaw right away that he's thinking he's enjoying by actually exploiting women. So I don't know if you want to say any more about that, but more how do we then properly relate to women in a way that pleases Krishna if it's not, quote, enjoying them?
So this is, this topic, we all discussed it. But Dravida Prabhu, I remember listening to a Bhagavad Gita, and then he said that was the first fall down. We wanted to take the position of God or Krishna. We wanted to enjoy, so this enjoying mood, that's why we're here in the material world. And, Srila Prabhupada, he would always say we should see every woman as a mother. That's the right consciousness. When I share that on book distribution, how, we respect women, they say, wow, that's a very good idea. And I said, yeah, we don't look at women lustfully. And so they appreciate the devotees' view on women. Did that help? Okay. Vijay, you want to say something? No. Okay. Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. Dandavat Pranams Prabhu. I need to know about the difference between being a leader and being a follower. What is the difference?
Okay. So, a leader has to have good qualities, and it's described that a Vaishnava devotee has all the good qualities of a demigod. And I was in La Jolla Cove, and there was this guy, he was studying Hinduism. And so I don't like the caste system, And so there's untouchables like that. And so what about you? Are you considered a Brahmin, And I said, well, Vaishnava is above a Brahmin. And he flipped out. He said, what? He said, there's another class? And I said, I just told him that even a Brahmana, he may not even, he starts doing things ritualistically or mechanically, but a Vaishnava devotee, he knows why he's doing things. But to try to answer your question, a leader is someone who can guide the society back home, back to Godhead. And then a follower are like the citizens who are like obedient sons. They follow the orders of the king, but the king himself has to be a first-class gentleman. And first-class gentleman means Vaishnava.
Yes,
Dravida Prabhu wants to answer.
Yeah, just one comment. Prabhupada often made the point that the real, in Vaishnavism, in Bhakti, the real leader is the best follower. Because he's following his spiritual master, he's following Krishna. And he's showing that the coin of the realm, so to speak, in Vaishnavism, is this humility, this sense of being willing to serve those who are worthy of being served. And you see everyone like that. Like we had some Bhakti Sundar gave this wonderful class. He said there's these three things: Nama Ruchi, and Jivadoya, and Vaishnav Seva. And so the Nama Ruchi comes for the person who's the greatest servant of the name, servant of the spiritual master, servant of Krishna. Then the taste comes, means that you are able to taste and enjoy everywhere and anywhere. the nectar of the name. So the greatest follower is the greatest leader in Vaishnavism is the greatest follower, and then he in turn becomes a leader in himself. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dhruv Prabhu. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna?
Oh, Prabhu, as to be expected, better than okay. Wonderful, both answers to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Grant Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.